My brothers, we stand on the precipice of battle. Fight for your lives.
Fetch me their souls.
This one doesn't look so bad.
You promised us war and valor. What the hell is this?
Do not be deceived by his miniature form. He is an agent of hell. You must prepare yourselves for Armageddon. My brothers, help me know. Old fellows in arms have left me for dead. He has fought in hellfire.
Hello my friends, welcome back to Player Display. I haven't been this excited for a figure in a while. This is the LegionsCon Biblical Adventures Demon Glitter Edition. Before we get into this figure, this one is kind of an oddity, so I did want to explain what this figure is, why it exists. So this figure comes from a line that was announced, I think maybe 2 years ago, called Biblical Adventures. And when I saw that title for the line, right at the bat I was like, not really my thing. I don't know what they're trying to do here. But I decided to put my biases aside and look into what this figure line is, and it's actually a lot more interesting than you think. When you really read the descriptions on BBTS, they're not just figures of biblical characters and creatures. They are actually directly inspired by period art pieces, like the paintings and stuff like that. So that makes these figures all the more fascinating. And when you look into the actual listings for the toys, not only do they have like the Bible characters and stuff like that, but they also have demons, statues, things of that nature. So there's actually a pretty cool variety. You could probably add with the Four Horsemen lines like Mythic Legions. I definitely plan on pairing those guys together. That being said, I had some pre-orders for this line initially, but it's been like 2 years.
It's been 84 years.
And nothing's happened yet. None of the figures that they had listed have actually ever dispatched. Everything is still on pre-order. However, in the meantime, LegionsCon happened, which I know nothing about. I've never actually been to a convention myself. And there was a booth that was giving out prototype figures of the demon in different variants. So there's this black glitter edition. There's one that's in very bright, saturated 1980s colors. There's a glow-in-the-dark variant, which I'm actually after. So I found them really enticing, and since ironically the exclusive figures are the only Biblical Adventures figures you can get right now, I want to get my hands on one, this one from Amazon, to see what it's all about, what the hubbub is, and just see how it stacks up against other types of figures that we've seen in the past. So for now, I'm getting one, depending on how much I like it. Though I think I am going to love it, though. I may get some more in the future and put in some more pre-orders. Again, no idea when the mainline figures are going to release, but for now, it'll be nice to just have one to look at. And I mean, if you see one demon, you see them all. They're all just going to be in different color palettes with different head sculpts. So this guy will be a good judge as to what we can expect in the future. But for now, here we are with at least one of the Biblical Adventures convention exclusive figures, being the Glitter Demon. And from the listing on Amazon, it said that there are only 300 units of this produced, and that's best exemplified up here in this polybag presentation. So we have Biblical Adventures, convention exclusive. We have the figure and all its accessories individually backed, which I think is a very good idea. Avoids friction, avoids damage and wear, so that's really nice. And then up here you have a 279, which I can only imagine is out of 300. So if you want to get these guys, they're actually not too shockingly expensive. They're pretty much the same price as any typical Mythic Legions figure, so not a bad deal if you ask me. Flipping it around, once again, you get more of that polybag presentation. And the company that produces, or is going to produce, Biblical Adventures figures is D13 Toys, an up-and-coming line that people are very excited about. There's quite a bit of buzz. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this guy has in store. Granted, I have looked at a few reviews already because I'm dipping into a brand new line here. I don't want to get a figure just to get it. I want to be sure I'm liking what I'm receiving. So I already kind of know what's going on, but it's still worth getting another opinion out there. So all that being said, I'm going to take my time to unpack everything. No need for Betsy or Donnie here. It's just a whole bunch of bags. So let's do it. Okay, here's the figure with all its accessories laid out, and overall, I'm very pleased. Why am I saying overall? It's because, as I expected, due to the weather and due to the fact that these are prototypes, the joints are quite stiff, if not frozen. So before I go into articulation, I'm going to need to give everything here, well, anything with moving parts anyways, warm water, because I don't want to risk anything snapping. So first, let's just have a look at the smorgasbord that we got over here. Once I do that, I'll toast everything up. We'll have a closer look at the figure, articulation, size comparisons, the whole smorgasbord. So we'll do what we usually do, but for now, let's start with accessories, change things up. Why not? So first thing we have here is the hot poker, as I like to call it, or staff, javelin, whatever you like to describe it as. And of course, this is a variant figure. Everything is infused with this very shimmery, glitter-infused plastic, because, of course, what's more demonic than glitter? So that makes perfect sense. But yeah, just a basic little rod here, nothing too special. A tad warped, but I mean, once you give it hot water, I'm sure it'll stretch right out. And also, if you want to give it a bit more flair, you do have this fire effect, or black fire effect. Again, a little Starfire lore in there. But yeah, you can plug it onto the end of the staff if you wish. Make it look like it's doing a little bit more damage. Make it more hell-like, so I do like that a lot. And how is this poured in? Just a simple little hole on the inside of the flame. You don't have to, like, really bury it deep. You just kind of prop it on the end. I suspect on either end it'll be fine. This one's a little bit more narrow than the other, so maybe you'll get some more depth there. Yeah, a tad more, I think. So it's ultimately meant to be one piece, but if you prefer just a standard staff, you can totally remove it. And if you want him holding other things, then of course you have some options in the form of his alternate hands. Over here, we have two alternate grips. Now, one thing I noticed is that the two head portraits, there are two, that's really exciting, and the hands and the feet are done in solid black, as opposed to the glittery plastic, which I actually like. It gives him a little bit more contrast as opposed to just being monotone. So I'm really digging that. Even if these were done in the glittery plastic, I still wouldn't complain. But this is still an extra little step taken to make things vary a little bit. Next up, you also have two conjuring or gesturing hands. See, this one's a little bit more magical looking, like he's casting a spell on you or something like that. This one's a tad more open, so if you want a wider accessory, then this might function well as a grip, or maybe good force choke or something like that. So really liking those a lot. Can't wait to experiment with them. You also have two more idle hands that are resting off at his sides. All the hands have 5 digits, obviously. I didn't really mention that, but I mean, with a demon, it can go either way. But yeah, very nice looking hands. Obviously, you can't really articulate them or swap them yet because, once again, I gotta warm everything up. But that being said, it's a really good selection. I mean, it's basically a slightly premium Marvel Legends. That's the best way to describe this guy. Over here, we actually have a rig of functioning wings, which are really beautiful and definitely tie this figure together. Once again, done in that same translucent plastic, but you'll notice there's some airbrushing going on along the outside, so there's a little bit of extra darkness, or these little talons of the wings, I guess, are, and then it's a bit more bright towards the center, so I really love that contrast. Contrast is the name of the game here with this figure. That's why it succeeds in my eyes. And off to the back, you can see some more sculpted details here. Once again, every single piece here is inspired directly by actual period art pieces. So I find this all the more interesting. They weren't just like, hey, let's make a demon. They're like, let's look at some old paintings and use them to directly inspire these figures that we're making. So I think it's brilliant. These are also supposed to have articulation. Oh, the wings are not frozen, so that's good. I don't have to worry about those. So they go in and out. There's no swivel, I don't think. Nah, no swivel. That's okay. So there's a hinge, so you go back, and then they can go back in, so they're a little wider from the front, so whatever you like. So that's really nice. And naturally, there's a peg back there, so it can go into the back. Now, the last thing, this is kind of an interesting piece. It comes with a display base, which is great, but from what I've heard down the grapevine, there are 4 different variants of base that you can get with this figure. There is, if I'm remembering right, there's a plain flat one, a stone variant, a walking on water variant, and then this sand version, so I got the 4th iteration. But since it's done in this translucent plastic, to me, I'm like, well, it could be like ash or like sand in hell or something like that. You know, you can get a little creative, you know, picturing in your mind like what story is being told by this base over here. This was actually my least favorite of the 4 bases, but now I'm thinking, ooh, what would this be like in hell or in a demon's lair? Then, I don't know, it makes it more exciting for me. So that's pretty cool. And you can see right here, there's 2 foot indents, one with a little peg and one that's just a deeper step into the sand, so that's very nice. You don't even have to have his foot right in there. You can have it off to the side because it's a footprint after all. Maybe he's just doing a little bit of a shimmy, moved his feet into different places, so that could totally work. Where are my manners? I forgot perhaps the most exciting accessory that comes with this figure being this additional demon head, which is maybe initially I was like, yeah, this is my favorite. I'm definitely displaying him with this one. But I don't know. After looking at both of them, I kind of come around to each of them. They both have their merits. They're both really cool. Once again, based on real life artwork. And I don't know. I like them a little bit equally now. This one feels, as a lot of people have been saying, much more Japanese, which I find interesting. So I'm not sure if that was their intent, but it just adds to more variation to this figure. One thing I'm hoping that I'd like to test out, I can't do it here in this video, unfortunately, because all my Marvel Legends are in a box right now, but what I'd like to do, I doubt it, but I'd like to test if this socket is compatible to Marvel Legends that we've seen in the past, and then maybe I can get like a body buck and plant one of these heads onto there and create a second demon or something like that. So that's something worth thinking about. I'll definitely test that out in the future. But anyways, back to the hot water. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so here's our demon friend once again after some hot water. I dropped him in hot water along with the spear, which is a little bit straighter, not quite perfect, but close enough, at least a little more consistent, and also all the hands as well. I will say straight away, hot water is a must, at least for these prototype demon figures over here. Maybe when they're producing the actual mainline ones, things will be a little bit different, but there were definitely a lot of stiff joints throughout here, where even after hot water, it did take some very careful prying to move things out of the way, namely the knees. Those were the most difficult part. A second thing I would like to note is this figure line, so far, and I hope they avoid this in the future, has actually committed a cardinal sin of producing an action figure. We've seen it with McFarlane, we've seen it with early NECA, and we're seeing it here. I hope it doesn't continue. It's a minor thing until we want things to start moving around. So here we have the fists. I know we usually start off at the head sculpt, but I just want to mention this while we're on the topic of hot water. When you pop this guy out, you'll notice that at least the joint itself is cast in the translucent glitter plastic, which is okay, but it's painted over. That meant there was some stiffness when it came to articulating the wrists. That is usually a culprit of breaking a joint. So that is something that must be avoided when they go on to produce figures in the future of this line. I mean, again, once I hit it with hot water, everything seems to be moving okay. Not as much on the fists for some reason. The fists are still really stiff, but I'm not too bothered by that because of all the hands here. You really think we're going to have a demon punching people? So, not a big deal on the fist department. But as for the other ones, let's have a little look. It seems that they don't have that paint rub yet, but the joints are able to move on the other hands, which is very good. But the paint hasn't rubbed off yet. But once you get it in the wrists, and I'm sure once you do some swiveling and twisting action, then that paint's going to rub off. But again, if I didn't give them hot water, then I plugged them in straight away, then I tried articulating things, that paint could have caused a break in the joint. And that's something that the producer of the figure will want to be very careful with. So just something to keep in mind. But once you warm everything up, and you get all the joints moving and everything like that, this is a really good figure. So we got all the shit out of the way. Now let's focus on the main body here. Firstly, we have the main head sculpt. We already had a look at the secondary one, but let's zoom on in over here. Obviously, if you're getting one of the mainline ones, there's probably going to be some more shading, some more depth in the crevices and everything like that. But here it's a variant figure, so everything is just cast in black, and all the paint that you get is the white eyes. A tad sloppy when you get really close and personal on it, but that's usually what happens with a 6-inch figure. That's why I usually do 7-inch figures now. The bigger the figure, the better attention to detail they can put in. So it's a tad off, but that's okay. Off to the side, you get a really good profile here, looking fantastic. Again, all cast in black, very shadowy and spooky. This figure overall kind of reminds me of the, not the Ghost Rider, the Wall Rider from Outlast, if anyone remembers that game. Hope they produce a third one at some point. But yeah, just a nice shadowy looking presence, especially with the head sculpt. Especially here, where you have that grill over here with the teeth. Also got this nose, furrowed brow, really long exaggerated ears. Really awesome looking. Loving these a lot. Now, as I said before, the head, the hands, and the feet are cast in solid black plastic. There's a hand again for reference. There's one of the feet and the tootsies. But as for everything else here, as far as I can tell, maybe the cod piece is also cast in black. Oh, there's glitter back there too, so that's also included in this. But every other piece here is cast in the translucent, dark, shadowy, glittery plastic, which I really love. And I was a little concerned about that too, because I have handled figures that were cast in this type of see-through plastic before, and they tended to crack or split over time. Not this guy, though. I mean, I threw him in hot water and everything, and even after that, not boiling water, by the way, just standard hot water from a sink, and a microwave took its part as well. But even after all that, everything held together. I'm not seeing any splitting. There's no cracks, so I'm really happy to see that. As for the rest of the base body, there's nothing too descript as Demon, aside from the trunks down here. But you do have very nice body sculpt up here in the main torso. You got the pecs, you got the abs, so pretty human looking overall. But going off to the back, you have shoulder blades, all of that anatomy that I don't really know because I never had an anatomy class. But the most important thing here is you do have a peg hole for the wing rig, which we will look at in a moment when we do a few part swaps or part adds, because we're not really replacing anything back here, but you get what I mean. Although, one of the nicest things about this figure is it does have some butterfly joints, which you don't always see with 6-inch figure lines. You see it with Marvel Legends, at least we did eventually, and we also saw it with McFarlane, that's 7-inch, but even so. But now we have this indie line over here, which I guess is learning from the great figure lines of the past. So now we get them over here for some additional movement, so that's really swell. Loving that a lot. And even the cuffs in there are also done in the glitter. One thing I do like about this plastic, although you might be bothered by it, is I like how you can see the joints on the inside. So it's nice to have a transparent figure once in a while, so that way you can admire the mechanics, what makes an action figure an action figure. So you can see this swivel in the bicep over there, then you can see the double joints over here in the elbow. So I find that really cool. That's never really bothered me. It would be even less apparent on a totally transparent figure, but because you got the darkness, it's a bit more visible, but that doesn't bug me at all. I just think that's very cool. We already talked about the hands, once again, cast in black, if not painted in black. I really don't know. Does this one articulate any better? Yeah, see, that's another thing. The peg on the hands are quite short, so when they're still stiff, like these two fists are, when you go to articulate it, then instead of the joint bending, then the whole hand pops out. So you might want to take the hand, articulate the joint, then pop it back in. But again, even after hot water, these fists are totally frozen. Maybe if I gave them more attention, they'd start moving again. But again, I'm not going to be using the fists anyways, so that's not a huge deal for me. But once again, never ever paint on the main joints on a hand, all right? Remember that. I don't care if you're a collector or a producer of action figures. That's just a golden rule. Or if you're a customizer, also an important rule to note. Down here at the trunks, we have a little bit more of that demon aesthetic again. It's kind of done up in this fur. Once again, you got more of that glitter showing up. Spin it around. One thing I didn't notice until later is he actually has a squiggly little tail, which I like a lot. They could have even gone out of their way to make that a whole separate removable piece. Then, I don't know, give it a bendy wire or something like that, but maybe in future releases. Once again, this is like the pre-alpha of an action figure line, right? So they got other steps that they can take if they so choose when they make other figures down this line, if they ever do wind up releasing the figures that have been on pre-order for who knows how many years by this point. Down here on the legs, once again, all bare, very much a human form, but you can see more of the joints on the inside, which I really do love. So we have the thighs over here. You can see the thigh cut, which is great. Down here, you got double-jointed knees, and you also have some really dark black feet, similar, once again, to the head and the fists. So, really cool. And once again, you can see it over here a little bit more vividly. The joints in the feet are also sculpted in the glitter plastic, but I don't think they're painted in that black, though, because when I was articulating it, nothing was flaking out of it. So the feet are fine. It's the hands that you gotta really worry about. So be cautious. Now let's pop out and do some basic part swaps. We're not gonna do every single hand here because that would take forever. We all know that. But let's do some basics. Firstly, let's remove this hand, one of the stiff fists, and then go back to one of the hands. So I have a right grip over here. Let's test the joint, be sure that's moving. Yes, it is. Much better. So once again, give it hot water, but see that little piece of black? That's some paint, so be wary of paint rub. And then I guess we just pop that right onto the figure over here. I know we could do double-handed, but for the sake of keeping things quick, ooh, a little tight in there. Well, I assume once you articulate it enough and then the paint rubs out, then it'll be a little bit looser. So hopefully not too loose, but time will tell. And then we'll give him his one weapon over here, being his staff. Not a big deal that he only comes with one hand-holding accessory, because since he has two gripping hands, I'm sure he could hold anything from Mythic Legions, Marvel Legends, even some McFarlane stuff if you wanted to give him firearms or something for whatever reason. I guess you could either just split it through there, or I think it's just going to be easy enough to just slide it on through the hand, and that looks really cool. Really loving that. Yeah, it's a good jabbing weapon. I'm really digging that. We'll take the wings over here. Actually, one smart thing I just realized is it's not a simple circular peg, because that would mean it would just be swiveling all over the place. It's almost this rectangle with the two top corners rounded off. So when we plug this in, it'll be keyed, and it's not going to rotate around on you. So that's a nice, very clever bit of attention to detail that they didn't even have to do. As I already noted, the wings are fine. They did not need hot water at all. They're moving just okay. So yeah, and that really brings out the overall profile of this figure, which is excellent. Now the last thing to talk about is, of course, the display base. I mean, a display base is a display base. I'm sure this won't be anything too trivial. Just get that at the bottom of the foot. Nice tension. Good. That means he'll hold his ground. Get the other foot situated right there. Pretty vanilla pose right now, but if we push him back, that's looking pretty damn great. Let's also try popping off the head. There we are. And swap that out with the demon portrait. And then again, they painted in that joint. They shouldn't have done that, but I'll shut up about it. Joint shouldn't be painted. That's the last time I'll say it. But now, let's see. This guy's a little tight. Yeah, maybe it's a matter of just quite literally trying to screw it down onto the rest of the neck. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, you know, this is probably going to need some hot water or something. So the excess paint on this ball joint goes away. See, it's flaking all over my fingers. And then this head will pop on better. So yeah, I think hot water is going to be the way to go on that. But for now, I mean, you can get a general idea of what that's going to look like. But for now, it seems like this head, hopefully, yeah, that one pops on just fine. Not sure why that is, but I guess that's a head we'll be working with for the rest of this review. I don't want to risk anything, so I will bring it back to hot water another time. Well, we've already talked about it a little bit here and there in small doses. This guy did get some hot water, so now we can talk about articulation comfortably without things breaking off. So it's very much like Marvel Legends, but with a few little surprises hidden in there. So firstly, we have a ball joint just beneath the skull, but you also got it down here at the base of the neck. Well, that would be a dumbbell joint? Well, I'm really not sure. But with those two combined, you can get a little bit of tilt. It might vary from each head sculpt. I'm not really sure. Good amount down, pretty okay amount back up, so you can get that flying, especially if you combine it with the torso articulation. So you can get them on any old flight stand, it'll look good. Also got your swivel, full exorcist, very nice. Down here, you got some butterfly joints, so he can crunch in a pretty good amount, and all the way out. As for coming on up, it looks like it hits just a hair past 90, which is very nice. You also got bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows, which once again were very stiff initially, but thanks to our friend Hot Water, they are able to move just fine now. The wrists should swivel, and the hands should hinge, like this guy is able to do. Not all of them can do that, but almost all of them can. It's just excluding the fists right now, at least in my copy. As for the wings, we already talked about those. They hinge back and back in, and they do not swivel, which is good on behalf of that nice peg that we just talked about earlier. Down to the torso, we have, again, very much like early Marvel Legends, just a ball in there, so we've got some tilt, a little forward, a little back, and I'm not seeing a nap crunch, but you do have a waist swivel, which is, in my opinion, a little high and a little bit visible. Would have been nice if they maybe extended the sculpt of the trunks to hide that seam, but it doesn't bother me that much. It gets a little darker in the plastic, so it's not the biggest eyesore ever. As for the legs, I do like the way that the trunks are sculpted towards the bottom, because that gives us more clearance to kicking forward. Not too bad. Off to the side, a little below 90, but that's pretty good. Also got a cut in the thigh, very nice. Double jointed knees, once again, those were incredibly stiff for a time, but no longer, and those go a fair amount back. Down the ankles, we got our back, we got our forward, and we got our rocker. So, yeah, this is a really great figure. I mean, you gotta give him a little bit of care at first, but once you get everything moving, then he's really great. I am very happy with this guy. Here we are at size comparisons. Let's start off with Mythic Legions. I think the most compatible line that fits in just right with Biblical Adventures over here. So this is kind of a deep cut. Does anyone remember Goldie from way early on in this channel? Well, I haven't showcased this, but not only have I modded him to death, but I also gave him 3 brothers called the 3 Hightowers. So we have 1, 2, and 3. That's their names. Never showed them off before, but it was just a whole bunch of kit bashing, part swapping, warm water, blue paint to highlight everything, some good part swaps, kit bashing. It was a lot of good stuff. So I am really happy with these 3 knights. These are like my 3 main heroes in my Mythic Legions, like, medieval collection. And this guy, he's definitely going to be on the same shelf. I have like one shelf for good guys, then one shelf for like the underworld, and just take a guess where this guy's going to stand. Now, since this is a brand new action figure line that's going to be ready to rumble, I think, within the year, let's put him next to a whole bunch of other figures. Firstly, we have a Whoosh Samurai, which is a tad shorter than your usual 6-inch fare, so you just have to pretend that this is just a shorter human if you want him to scale with your other 6-inch scale figures. Over here, though, we have our loose collector Yimp from the 5-pack. Of course, there are 5 of these little dudes, so I plan on having a whole bunch of them surrounding our glitter demon over here. Next to him, we also have the Storm Collectibles skeleton. This comes from the Motaro Mortal Kombat 2-pack. I ordered 2 of these skeletons, so I got 2 of them to also hop around our demon buddy over here. And also, if you want a 7-inch comparison, here we have a standard human within that scale. This is, of course, the NECA Ultimate Ghostface. This is the original one, but with one of the Inferno heads and masks on top of that. So that's pretty interesting. Just a nice little part swap. If you want a review on any of these guys, I think I've reviewed them all, so definitely be sure to check that out. Once again, I don't have any Marvel Legends readily available to compare them with, but to end things off, I do have the Star Wars The Black Series Squash and Mechamuck.
Holy crap, who really is Deep Man? What are we gonna do? It's a chest burster, a baby demon, wild card, baby Voldemort, Death himself, a skeleton man, Ghostface, and a glitter demon! We're totally outnumbered!
Not to worry, Mechamuck. I've called in a few of our friends.
But I don't even have any friends.
It's been 2 years of player display. Have you not been paying any attention? Look around you. You have friends everywhere.
What are you? Holy rocker joints!
We are prepared to die at your side.
This is nothing.
Oh, let me kick some demon ass!
We are a cut above the rest.
Time to send you back where you came from, you hellish scum. You and me together, Bruce. Don't call me that. You fools! You have entered the Forbidden Zone. Everything you see here is a
Dr. Zaius? Really?
Caesar was out sightseeing with King Kong.
Oh, alright, yeah, before we start, why are we all fighting anyways?
Land, right? We're fighting for land. I am here to reap your souls.
Dude, we don't even have souls. We're pieces of plastic voiced by a guy in an apartment.
Oh, didn't realize that. Sorry.
Yeah, read the room, jerkwad. Maybe look things around before you start making assumptions and all that, alright? So, okay, I guess we can all go home. Nothing to do here. Everybody just go back to where you came from. Back to your shelves, so go on. Sorry.
So, how do I feel about the LegionsCon exclusive Biblical Adventures D13 Glitter Edition Demon? Well, let's put it this way. If they go on to produce the main line of figures with almost the exact same process that they did with this guy, I think these figures are going to be in very good hands. The only issue, as I've iterated before, we'll do it one more time since we're wrapping up here, is the fact that he absolutely needs hot water to fix not only stiff joints, but painted joints. That's a very big deal. So I guess it's worth also mentioning, what if you're not a modder, if you've never used hot water or heat before to fix a figure, and you're looking to get some of these figures yourself, whether it be more of these exclusives or figures from the main line, which we are yet to see. I'll briefly say I did do a tutorial long off in the past. It's an old video, but it still remains true. I mean, water acts the same, so you can learn from that if you like. But briefly to explain it, at least for this dude, all I did is I got a cup of hot water, I put it in the microwave for a minute, I dropped the hands in there. As for the body and the staff, I got the sink as hot as I possibly could, and I put the body in, like right under the rushing water along with the staff, be sure that the actual drain is blocked off so you don't lose anything. And then as I did that, I just tried slowly articulating everything. Once I took it away from the water. Once you do that, then you should be able to have just enough clearance there with the opening of the joints under the hot water that things should hopefully start to snap out of place. With this guy, you don't really hear a distinct snap, but you do start to feel a little bit of movement, and then you start to feel that nice sensation of, this knee is able to bend, which is always a good feeling. But then again, with any figure line, that shouldn't be a part of the equation. But it's not anything that can't be fixed. So I do unfortunately need to dock a few points for that. With that being said, with all the QC stuff put aside, this figure, as he stands, with all the accessories, and the special glitteriness of him, and the shadow darkness he's got going on, whatever you want to call it, man, this is a perfect figure for me. Not only am I a sucker for exclusive figures for whatever reason that are in limited quantities, but I also love when they go out of their way to do something sincerely special to a pre-existing mold and amp them up. Like, I don't think I can think of any other figure that has this type of plastic going on, which makes this all the more special. Meanwhile, you take a line like McFarlane, and some of their earlier, more exclusive figures were simply the base figures, but unpainted, which was really strange. There was nothing purposeful about it, right? But then over here, you have several different variations of this demon that came from LegionsCon. Here we have the glitter variant. Then you also had the retro 80s color variant, glow in the dark. Then you had a whole bunch of other color variants from other places that you could get them from. I think like in-store, like other online store exclusives and stuff like that. I don't know all of them. But it's nice that every time they produce an exclusive figure to get us excited about the main line, they're experimenting and trying something different. That being said, it's good that they are experimenting before they release the main line, so that way us, the collectors and reviewers, can notice any missteps or things that they could fix in the process. Once again, paint on the joints and stiff joints. That's a big deal. But if they can get past that when they go to produce the main figures, I think this line's going to be perfect. I think it's going to be a smash hit. Once again, I'm more interested in the demons than getting an action figure of Jesus Christ himself. But I don't know, that could be fun too. Let me know if you want to see a review of that. Maybe I'll think about it. But it is worth mentioning that this figure was a gift. I got a gift card from my aunt for Chinese New Year, so thank you very much to my aunt once again. This was a blast. This was a really fun review to do, and I've been wanting a figure from Biblical Adventures for like the past 2 years. And even though the figures haven't officially released yet domestically, I was able to get this exclusive. Once again on Amazon, and I can vouch for them now. If you see any of these figures floating around on Amazon, you can get them. They're well packed. There's several layers of bubble wrap, a lot of packaging involved, anything to keep them nice and safe from the elements. So totally safe to get them from there. And also there's some on eBay for around the same price. So these are in limited quantities, but if you're dying to get one or several, absolutely do that. Great army builder. So let me know what you think about this figure and thoughts on the line in the comments. But until we meet again, if you enjoyed this review and this figure, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
Ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals.
And subscribe.
yeah, hi, Mechabug here. If you want to see more from Pod Guy, then please be sure to check out the Pod Plays channel down in the description for some Let's Plays. And if you want to support the channel a bit too, you also got the Pod Patreon, which is down in the description as well. See you around, folks!
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.